The Morning Brew podcast with Jaffe and Razor, sponsored by Berkshire Bank Home Lending. Where you borrow matters.
All right, well, Razor, it started nice. Not beautiful because they didn't score a goal, but it sure started nicely, only to end anything but as the Boston Bruins fall 5-1 to the Carolina Hurricanes. Game one of the 2022 Stanley Cup playoffs. I was reminded it is not the NHL playoffs, it is the Stanley Cup playoffs. I don't know if I need to be reminded, but John Shannon reminded me of that. And we welcome you into Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor, presented by Berkshire Bank. This episode is also made possible by the great people over at Fazenda and Fazenda Coffee, at Max Pro Hockey, and Tresca, Ray Bork's restaurant on Hanover Street, along with Chef Rich. We're going to talk more about Tresca coming up a little bit later. All right, Razor. This is just playoff hockey, man. We get right into it here, right? What a good start. I mean, the way that the Bruins came out, played their game, it gave what I would say is a lot of indication. I think that the Bruins, I felt, learned how to play against the Carolina Hurricanes, had a distinct game plan, and we saw how better of a team they were than the last time these teams played in mid-February. What did you like most about the start? Let's start with that.
Well, I just like their ability to get out of their zone, first and foremost. That was the biggest thing for me. We've seen, certainly the last two times that they played Carolina, they got torched in their own zone. We talked about a pregame on Ness and how far away the high danger chances, the shots that came from the slot that they gave up, the easy goals. And I thought all night they did a good job in those situations, but certainly in the first period they did a great job. D to D out of the zone, D to D to the wing, out of the zone, quick up, skate the puck out of the zone. So I like that. That allowed them to get in on the offense, and what you pointed out on Ness and chipping pucks. They weren't rimming pucks. They weren't putting pucks where Raanta could get them. The D had to turn. They had to make a quick play before getting forechecked, before getting hit. So I thought it started in the defensive zone. They did a good job getting out, and they did a great job putting pucks to areas where they could retrieve them, or at least make Carolina defense work real hard to get them.
They also won faceoffs in the first period, a lot of them, and it wasn't like they didn't crush Carolina. Although Patrice Bergeron, I believe, I don't have it in front of me, I think was 6-1 maybe in the first period, but that changed
big time.
That changed, and my numbers again may be off by a little, but and I think that had a big factor on it. But yeah, I did love the way that they moved pucks once they got him into the O-zone. I loved how they put him into an area where they literally forced the Carolina defense to not just turn, but turn to face the wall in a tough spot in the corner. You know, sometimes that corner is just the worst place because you don't feel you can go left or right. You're just kind of stuck there as a defender, right? Especially if the puck is down near in your feet. You just either want to eat it or you just want to rim it around the other way. And what you do for the opponent then is you give a free pass, so to speak. When you're changing the point of attack, it goes to their offside D, who then is like, I got time, I got space, and then he opens up and he brings it into an area to create some more offense. And the Bruins did do a nice job of that, but they couldn't finish. They couldn't finish. Was that more of their doing or Antti Ranta's play in the first period?
Well, I'm not going to take credit away from the goaltender. I'm always, you get some puck luck as a goaltender. You need things to go your way, and I'm going to give it to Raanta. At the same time, the Bruins have to find a way. You get these opportunities in the playoffs. You have to bear down a little bit more. You have to have that one more body, that one more stick in front of the net at times to create a little bit more havoc, to create a little bit more deception for Raanta. So I will give him, he was very good in the first. He made the solid saves, but at the same time, the Bruins are going to have to find a way to do a little bit more to bury these opportunities. And it's also got to be their better players It's one thing for Forber to be going down the slot,
Right.
rather than a Pasternak or a Marchand or a Bergeron. That's the Smitty. Those are different chances, and you'd like to see those guys get a few more of those.
For a while, the Bruins were vastly outshooting the Carolina Hurricanes. At the end of the first period, it ended up 14-10 in favor of the Bees. But at one point, it was something. It was.
I was going to say
8
14-6.
Yeah, I think it was 4. It was 8. It was a difference of 8. So
Yeah.
14-6. And then there was this. It was a crappy call, a tripping call on Patrice Bergeron at 16:42 mark of the first period. And why was it crappy? Because it really was more of an, I'm in an area, and you know what? I know we're supposed to call the rule book, but you know what? It's playoff hockey. I mean, make it a good trip. And there was a bad trip called later in the game against
On
Carolina.
Frederick, yeah.
Against when Frederick was clipped down by was Jordan Stahl, right?
That's right.
Okay. But what I feel happened after that tripping call against Patrice, even though Carolina only got one shot on the power play, and the Bruins did do a good job on the PK, it was right after that where all of a sudden Carolina changed the tone of the game. They got more aggressive. They put pucks in areas. The Bruins did turn it over too. The Bruins had 2 or 3 turnovers at most in the first period in the middle of the ice neutral zone area that really did transition or translate into Carolina chances. But then all of a sudden Carolina started shooting, and they started getting some chances. Ullmark made some nice saves. But even though there was no score there, I felt you could change or feel a little change in the game at that moment.
You felt that carry over into the second, and it was more even.
Mhm.
The Bruins weren't dominating anymore. It got to become more, instead of a 60-40 game, it was a 50-50 game at that point, and you're still waiting for the Bruins to score, because we've talked about it in our preview show. We talked about on Ness and how important it is to get a lead on this Carolina Hurricanes and get that opening goal, and it really that. For me, at the end of the day, that's the story. That's the real eye-opener. The real thing that came to fruition today was the Bruins didn't get the lead that they needed, and Carolina did, and it changed the tempo. And a lot of it came from their lack of chances and that second power play that Carolina ended up getting, creating momentum those last 2 minutes of the first period.
Right. And your point is dead on that all of a sudden the second was 50-50. I think one of the reasons why it was more 50-50, Carolina, they knew they hadn't played great in the first, and I think they knew that the Bruins had, and they just said, we got to now get to our physical game. I thought they were much more physical in the second period. By the end of the game, Carolina had every single player on their lineup record at least one hit, many of them with multiple 4, 5 hits. They ended up out-hitting, by the way. I got a few numbers here. They ended up with 42 hits. The Bruins had 48 in the game, if my numbers are correct there. But I just felt that everybody from the Carolina it was 48-42 in favor of Carolina. Everybody from Carolina made a concerted effort to get more physical in the second period.
Yes, and the other thing with that first period, and you have a goaltender who's never played. You have a goalie issue this week. And Ronta making a few saves, not giving up a lead, starts to give confidence to the team. And you get into after your first period, you're 0-0. You got outshot, but your goaltender made some saves. They didn't score on the power play. Now let's go get more aggressive. I think it was maybe a little tentative from Carolina early, like it usually is in playoff series, but maybe even more so because of their goaltender and not knowing what they were going to get. But him playing well gave them confidence and allowed them to get to their game because they weren't there at the start, maybe being a little conservative.
So let's talk about the goals that were scored near the end of the second period.
Yeah.
The Jarvis goal gets things going on a really nice tip. And then Niederreiter scores. Jarvis' goal is from a shot from the right side, and the Niederreiter shot is from a goal from basically the left side. We'll call it middle left, as he slid to the middle a little bit. But starting with the Jarvis goal, do you think that Linus Ullmark overcommitted there? I mean, it was a hell of a tip. The puck was a little bit going wide, maybe a foot, maybe 2 feet going wide, and it was a beautiful tip. And you made a point on Ness, and we were pre-intermission, about how because Lindholm and McAvoy had been on the ice for a longer shift and some D-zone time, and by the way, it ended up being a 1:23, 23 shift, you thought perhaps Linus was getting out there a little more to try to grab the puck. After watching it a couple times, do you still feel the same way?
Yeah, that's the game management play at that point. If I'm in net and I recognize my two top D, that I know they had a couple chances at the other end. I know we've been in our zone for 35, 40 seconds. I'm trying to make more of an effort to catch that puck, to maybe be a little more aggressive, get a whistle, let everyone take a deep breath. What it does is he slides, he's moving outside of his post. It just opens things up a little bit. Ideally, he stays inside of his post, just drops, let that puck go wide, and cover the tip play. So hindsight is in that play where I guess you'd replay it differently, but I think the idea to go out and get the puck and use game management to stop that shift, that threat, would be important to me as a goaltender. Right? It looked like that's what Linus was doing.
So, but what's the alternative there? Because if you're passive,
then it goes wide, and it goes around, and they stay in the zone. Exactly.
Yeah. And as a goalie, I'm guessing you feel like you want to make yourself bigger there too, right? You just because you're blocking for that tip. So the hesitation, I would think, would be if I'm less aggressive, I'm leaving myself and my team equally as vulnerable, perhaps then.
Yeah, well, that's it. Because, again, if you don't go get that puck and it doesn't get tipped, then it goes right past your net, and your defensemen and your coaches are looking at you, well, why didn't you get that to kill the play for us?
Yeah.
So it's that catch-22, and that's just the game management. If, for instance, this team, your guys just comes off a face-off where everyone's just out there, you're probably going to be a little less aggressive to go get it and just stay within your post and play the tip and let the puck go wide if it does do that.
So that's the first goal at 16:28. Second goal comes at 18:38 from Nino Niederreiter, who's part of that third line along with Jordan Stahl and Jesper Fast, that have probably been their best or most consistent line all season long for Rod Brindamore's squad. Niederreiter ends up getting the puck on the left side, almost in a spot where you'd expect a defenseman to be. This is after Tony DeAngelo slides to the middle of the ice with the puck. The right shot defenseman has a perfect pass, kind of an angle pass down a few degrees over to Niederreiter, doing that, what I call the reload on the strong side. He gets it, takes a couple of strides, and smokes it past Linus Ullmark, but bodies in front of the net. This is an area of the ice, though, up top. The Bruins do a nice job of defending, especially the middle of the ice, usually, right, against everybody else, it seems, in the league except Carolina. But up high, they'll give you those high shots more. Is that going to be a problem with the amount that Carolina gets pucks through?
Yes, it has been, and it will be. It was again tonight. So that's going to be the big adjustment for the Bruins. Just watching tonight, is those are much more of a threat for this team than it is probably any other team, even Florida for that. Florida's good at that as well, but Carolina, they have the ability to tip, they have the ability to screen. DeAngelo gets pucks through, Slavin gets pucks through, and I do feel like they're going to have to find a way, the Bruins, to get those centers a little higher in certain situations. Bergeron's kind of there, but not really there on the Niederreiter goal. They might have to get a little more man-on-man up top. And that's what the Bruins don't want to do in any way whatsoever, because they have their layers and they have their system. But they might have to make that adjustment because that's causing some havoc down low.
Yeah, I think that is a tactical thing that, well, let's look at for game two.
And you'll see, like, the first goal, they do a great job using the whole blue line. Kind of like Nick Lidstrom used to, the Detroit Red Wings did.
Spreads out.
In the day. They go D to D all the way blue line to blue line, and that allows their forwards to get to the front of the net. That gives them a little bit more time to get there. It also spreads out those forwards that are in the higher slot.
Yeah. All right, so it's 2-0 at that time. End of 2. Bruins come out again with some good energy in the third. Taylor Hall gets a goal at the 2:53 mark after the Bruins. Again, I do feel they got away from simple hockey for a while. After a first period of simple hockey until late in the first period when Carolina got some chances. And then I thought the Bruins started to handle it a little too much and try to skate it too much. They are reticent, hesitant, whatever term you want to use. Oh, geez, especially on the power play. We'll get to that in a minute. I think to really change things up that much. I know the team doesn't like to dump and chase, but the fourth line was doing it all night, and it worked for them. So I think sometimes the other lines have got to take an example. They always want to lead by example, but sometimes look at what is working and go to that. I felt at times the Bruins didn't until actually Hall's goal when McAvoy got it deep, led the rush basically, then goes back behind the net to help, corral it, and then they get it to a high slot pass for Taylor Hall, who one times it a snap one-timer, which creates a real difficult read for a goaltender, the quick release of the goaltender to pick up the puck, and he scored it there. I mean, I love that play. Howla and McAvoy with the assist there, Razor. But then after that, it's going to be 2 goals, in particular the Teravainen goal. After Matt Grzelcyk pinched, about 7-minute mark, so maybe, about 7-minute mark along the left side. I've tried to look at it a few times because there's not a second assist there. So it must not hit the winger who's along the wall there. Was that Domi maybe?
I think it was Domi.
I think it was Domi too. But Grzelcyk ends up pinching. Now, we like it when the Bruins are aggressive. Problem is when you're aggressive, sometimes you're going to miss. We talked a little bit on postgame about this. You were okay with the pinch by Matt Grzelcyk there. But the question is this, asking you, and I'll talk about it, was there enough support for him to read that pinch?
Well, it came off the Taylor Hall shot, so that changes things a little bit. It wasn't a straightforward play. It was more of a reaction play. I thought Grzelcyk put himself in a good spot. He just didn't execute. And I think that could be part of the reason why they didn't get the support, because it looked like he was going to win that battle quite easily along the boards. It pops over, and because it's a Hall shot, because it's not, no one's reloading. Everybody's going that way because it's off of the rush. So they don't have someone coming up, a forward or a third man high coming back the other way. The entire 5 guys are going up ice. Carolina gets a break, and they certainly made the best of that opportunity. What a great play from Trocheck to Teravainen. Great shot.
Once Trocheck got it, just outside the zone, it perfectly goes to him. He's skating his ass off up the ice. And the puck is just on it's not rolling, but it's just sliding up, kind of like elevating a little on its side. He cups the puck beautifully to settle it. Takes, slow motion makes it seem like 5 strides. It was, a 1.5 stride. And then he sizzles the pass right over to Teuvo Teravainen. Perfect righty over to lefty. The lefty gets it and doesn't stick handle. He gets it, that half-second pause, and he goes high blocker just under the bar past a goaltender in Ullmark who's trying to go from his glove, his left to his right. If he made the save, it would have been miraculous, in my opinion.
Yeah. And with the right, Trocheck's a shooter, so he has to really respect him over on the right side. And like you said, when he cups the puck down, it's even, you feel as a goaltender that's probably even more of a shot. Mm-hmm. And he makes that quick pass. So he's a little behind Ullmark. He still gets there. If it's not a perfect shot, he probably gets some kind of an appendage on it just because of his size and his ability to get over. But again, Teravainen, a perfect shot, and that's a backbreaker. Hall hits the post a couple minutes before that.
Right.
The Bruins have a power play before that, and you felt like they had a chance, but 3-1 really put it in the bag from everyone watching.
After that, you're right. Vinny Trocheck scores coming down the left side. He's a righty. He goes backhand from just about on the goal line, hits off the mask of Linus Ullmark. I'm not sure if he was trying to make a save with the mask or not, or if it just caught him a little bit off guard, but that was one that optically did not look good nor feel good going in. It's 4-1. Andrei Svechnikov then scores an empty netter at the 17:59 mark. I was a little surprised the goaltender pulled at that point at 4. I understand on the one hand there's nothing to lose, right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, a 4-1 feels different than 5-1, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And I think I told this story last year on Morning Bru, but Game 4 in Montreal, where I remember this vividly, that Felix Potvin was losing his mind on the bench. We were down 4-2, and there was a minute left. And they pulled me again in the playoffs. So Mike Sullivan pulled me again, and then they went down. And I believe it was Saku Koivu, who hadn't scored the entire the series yet, hadn't gotten going, ends up scoring the empty netter in the Bell Center, and the place goes nuts again. We lose 5-2. Yeah, it doesn't matter, but guess what? Saku Koivu's now going. And that's, I don't love this one again tonight, because now Svechnikov got on the board. The one guy hadn't really done much. We didn't say his name at all night long. Talked about him being a great power forward, everything else, but now he's got his goal for the series. Gets him off the snide. So I don't love it at 4-1 in their building. Lets them have their cheer. Lets them feel even better. Kind of. But that's also, don't give up the fourth goal either, and have this, because 3-1 feels so much better tonight.
Right, then
so
5-1.
much better.
5-1 just
feels like they got blown out again.
Right.
And they've already been blown out twice in a row. That 3-1 number is like, and we should have won.
Right.
It's hard to say you should have won at 5-1.
Right.
Even though I feel like they did have an opportunity.
They can sit there and say, we did a lot of good things. But with 5-1, there's a but. At 3-1, it's, we did a lot of good things. We're fine.
Yeah.
4-1, it's, hey, you know what? We did a lot of good things. We can figure it out. We'll be all right. 5-1, it does feel different. Let's hope that it isn't different. I want to touch on goaltending, the power play, and just a couple of other things. We'll go over some numbers as well quickly, but this is the perfect time to thank our sponsors. As we talked about, we have a new one joining us, and we are really excited about this. Tresca in the North End, serving delicious Italian food and giving it to you with traditional hospitality in Boston's iconic North End. Go to TrescaNorthEnd.com and you can see everything they have, the menu, make some reservations there. Tresca's a place that you and I know really well.
Oh, yeah.
It's great. Ray Bork has been involved with Tresca for forever. Since it opened. It's a wonderful place, and now Chef Rich is there, bringing a lot of specialties, including the veal chop parm, a.k.a. the Ray Bork special. You cannot pass that up if you like.
You sleep for a month after
Oh,
that
my
one.
God. And
deadly.
you don't, it's unbelievable. And you don't want to miss out on Anna Maria's baked balls. Those are delicious, too. You never know when 77 might be there as well. You head to the North End, you're out for a nice night, you're having a little wine, and next thing you know, one of the greatest defensemen ever in the National Hockey League will be there. Coming May 1st, too, outside patio dining begins again in the North End, and you're just going to have a great time. So we are thrilled that Tresca has come along to over to Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor, and go check them out. Again, it's on Hanover Street. Go to TrescaNorthEnd.com. Fazenda Coffee, FazendaCoffee.com is Boston's premier specialty coffee roaster. They also have the premier Morning Brew mugs. Go to FazendaCoffee.com/Morning Brew. You have to use that URL, though, folks, to get the $45 order and then free mug included in it. They've got all different types of whole bean and ground coffee. And you want to try, I'm telling you, you want to try like the Guatemalan, the Costa Rican, I like the French. I actually love the French roast. I mean, there's so many different. Go try it out. Get a mug as well, or get 2 mugs too if you want to. FazendaCoffee.com/Morning Brew. And our other sponsor for this show, Max Pro Hockey, MaxProHockey.com. Where Max Grachev is located. Go check him out. And if you got a young player, boy or girl playing, or if you got a team that you want to have developed during the season, go check out MaxProHockey.com, MaxProHockey.com. There is where the fun and the improvement is. All right. I'm hungry now because
I know. I was thinking about that chicken parm.
Oh, my God. The
so
chicken parm,
good.
veal parm. I had a fish there one of the last times I was there. It was outstanding.
Gnocchi.
Oh, yeah. All right. The power play. Listen, I know they haven't been good for the last 40 attempts or 39 attempts coming into this outside of the goal or two against the Buffalo Sabres. You're playing against the best penalty kill in the National Hockey League. A team that will diamond up. They'll do it's a 1-3, and sometimes they'll actually bump up. It almost looks like a 3-1. They'll stay on the line then. You can't skate through it. What's the refusal to chip the puck, to lob the puck in, and have weak side speed? What's the refusal, do you think?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure, and that's the adjustment. That's the big adjustment. We're gonna have to see what they do with that, because again, you never want to give up the puck on the power play.
I get it, right?
The new age way, right? Like when I played, it was you dumped it in, you went and got it, you put 3 guys in the corner, and you battled it out. Now everyone wants to hold on to it, but what's happening is they're kicking it out, and there's 2 guys on them, and there's no support, and you can't send it through this line because their sticks are too good, they're too long, and they cover the ice laterally too well to be able to send an 80-footer 3 feet in the air. As good as these guys are, they're not handling it.
How many times do we see that in the game?
It bounced over everybody's stick all night long, that cross ice. So that's not the play. We saw it once where McAvoy chipped it to himself. Now, is that what we're going to look at? Are we going to look at a McAvoy or a Pasta chipping it to themselves or moving it a little bit quicker? Because what happens is nowadays with the drop back pass, the flanks, there's no movement.
No.
And the idea is usually you can push guys back because their defense aren't confident enough. They don't have good enough system. The defense backs off, and then you give it to those guys. These guys aren't backing off. Carolina's not backing
Their
off.
spacing is spectacular on the PK.
Exactly. If they do, they're at the top of the circle, but their stick can still be a problem. So yeah, the Bruins again, this whole series is going to be about adjustments, and this is the first and foremost that needs to be taken care of because, again, they don't need to necessarily score, but they needed to get a good opportunity in that third
which
period.
they did in the first period, right? They did, and then therefore they built on it.
Yeah.
So we saw that. And third period, the antithesis. I mean, they needed a goal.
It was 2-1.
I know.
2-1. It's right there. Like, that's frustrating.
Bruins end up with 6 shots on their power play, but I'll bet you they turned over the puck more or had their entries nullified a lot more than 6 times.
Yeah.
And I was a little maddened by it in this one because, maybe don't be so hesitant or stubborn to change. Just change a little bit. You did so well early on for 2/3 maybe a little more of the first period with putting pucks into corners. Try it on the power play. Get 2 guys going again with some weak side speed, or chip it to strong and open ice and have a guy going for it and another guy about 10 feet away for a quick pass to alleviate any pressure. I just think it's too predictable. It's too well scouted, and Carolina sticks are too long and too good. So that's my take as well.
Yeah, they're going to have to get to. It's going to be that self-chip play. They're going to have to soften them up a little bit to open up the next time. The problem is there was only one, and they only went to the right side as well.
Almost all the time.
Only went to the right side. So even if it's just that one, we're going to make it look like we're going to the right and we move it off to the left earlier.
Right.
Just switch it up that way. Get that diamond that you talked about. Get that moving a little bit laterally to then open up something else because at least 9 out of 10 times it went to the right side.
Well,
the only time it didn't was when DeBrusque went right up the middle and gave it up there in a similar way, but at least he went up the middle or a little bit closer to the left-hand side.
Well, the puck is almost always on the stick of Pastrnak or McAvoy.
Yeah, and
they're both righties.
They try and get it to Bergeron, who's the righty there, who's on his forehand to send it across, but it wasn't.
Got to change. Goaltending. What do we think? We touched on this post game a little bit on Nesson. Bruce Cassidy post game was asked, but he said talk about it tomorrow, meaning on Tuesday. You thought maybe he'd even wait till Wednesday, but I don't know if he's put himself into a corner, so to speak, by saying I'll talk about it on Tuesday. I got to imagine I still think it's Linus Ullmark. I didn't like the Trocheck goal, how it looked. I don't like the number. I don't like the number at all. 5 goals. I know one was an empty netter, but 4 goals on 24 shots.
Yeah, which is another reason why the Trocheck one kind of stinks because it would have been 3 on 24.
Right.
And the empty netter wouldn't have happened. So
right.
Or they get one and it's 3-2, and then they you know what I mean? It just the whole thing. This is what National Hockey League goaltending is about is not giving that extra one up.
It's not that I don't believe in Jeremy Swayman. I do. But if you go to him, I think this soon, this quick, right away, then you're set up the ping pong ball, so to speak, the game of ping pong. Every time, one game, boom, boom, over, pull that guy. Next game, pull that guy. Or it just becomes win and you're in. I don't think you want that in the playoffs.
I agree 1,000%. At 16:58, there was not a thought in my body that would have said that Ullmark wasn't playing game 1. 16:59. It wasn't a good look. But to your point, I don't see the benefit of putting Swayman in the next game. Allmark played. He felt the building. He had the experience. He did play well all the way up. You can't fault him on the first three. We talked about the situation on the first one, the game management. Second one goes in. Could have just as easily gone in on Ronta 3 or 4 or 5 different times. It wasn't his night. So I agree. And it's just an easier spot to put Swayman in at home. And
I would
when
agree.
You're not out of the series. To put him in there, have the comfortability, that's where you're really changing momentum. The Bruins aren't in trouble here. The Bruins aren't dead in the water. The Bruins aren't necessarily in need for a momentum change. They need to fix the power play a little bit, and they need to bury their opportunities. That's what you get out of this game. So it's more of an optical thing on that goal, more of an optical thing on the last 4 minutes. I think because it happened at the last 4 minutes. That's like our lasting impression of it. But the reality is that didn't affect the game in any way whatsoever.
It's like a bad dessert, right?
Yeah.
You remember it after a decent meal or a good meal, and then the meal just started to get away with you. And then time dessert and coffee came. No, and that's what you remember. That's what you remember. That's what we used to say when I was in the restaurant business. By the way, you will not have a bad dessert at Tresca.
No, you won't.
And
dessert tray comes out.
You
Oh,
will
boy.
not. Okay, so I think we both agree we don't expect to see a goalie change, or maybe I should term it we wouldn't change the goalie. That doesn't mean they're not going to.
Well, exactly. Really quickly is we haven't seen this at all. We have no idea what Bruce Cassidy's thinking.
Exactly.
There's no experience to go off of this, and that's my one caveat as well. For me to just go out on a limb and say this is happening, it is hard to do because we don't know what they're likely to do. There's just nothing to go off of.
Yeah, I'm going to say they stick with Linus. Do we think any other changes could be made? Do the Bruins need to get maybe one different guy on the back end? I don't think we see a change, assuming everybody's healthy. I don't think we see a change up front. Third line was not good until the third period. They were not very good. Bergeron was good in the first. Marchand, Jake DeBrusk. We didn't call their name a lot in this game, but they're not changing. The second line was very good for a while. I guess the question is, could we see a change on defense? I mean, do you bring in a big guy like Josh Brown to combat some of the net front of Carolina?
I don't think so, because the issue in the net front was McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo, Grzelcyk. Those are the guys that got beat in front. I thought Forbort did an awesome job on the PK. I thought Clifton did his good, steady Eddie job. Wasn't noticeable. And when he's not noticeable, especially against a team like this, I thought he made some good decisions getting down the wall. So no, again, I don't foresee any changes on the back end. And the fourth line played good. I don't think they do anything. I don't think they do anything. I think they played well enough. I think Bruce Cassidy's going to wake up tomorrow morning, watch the video again, and realize that this was a pick'em game with 13 minutes or 7 minutes left in the second period, if not more so in their favor.
Yeah,
I think. And it's the same idea with Allmark. Like, you don't need to shake the boat. You
don't
need to
overdo
panic.
it here,
Don't
right.
overthink it.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. Let's just go play the same way, score a couple goals early. Then we can get to our game and play with our lead.
Yeah. I don't expect any changes, and I wouldn't make any changes.
I wouldn't.
Not that anybody's asking me, but my opinion. I don't expect lineup changes, assuming everybody's healthy, and I wouldn't make any, assuming everybody is healthy. All right. Well, that was a healthy show. Is there anything else that we need to touch on quickly? You had a lot of different players from Carolina record a point. I think Dale said 15, it was 15, right? 14 or 15 different players. 1, 2, 3.
Again, 3 guys got it. The Svechnikov, the empty netter.
So they had a ton of balance, which is what their team is about. Jacob Slavin did play very well. He played 23-41, had a bunch of shutdown situations, a long reach. I liked, if I'm looking at Carolina being objective, I like the fact that Smith and Cole each played over 17 minutes for my third pair defense. I thought that, those are good numbers, folks. If you're looking at that, Pesce only had to play 20 and a half minutes as the number 2 defenseman, but this was a balanced effort, but yet Rod Brindamore said at post game too. It was a real close game. It was a pick'em game. It was a close game. And, he's got a lot of respect for the Bruins. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely little brother against big brother. And is little brother big enough now to take it to big brother type of series? At least that's the vibe that I get. We know what happened during the regular season. Now something happened in game 1 that looks similar on paper, but yet was different than game 2 and game 3 when the Bruins did get throttled by the Canes. But we'll see how the Bruins can rebound from this and especially get their offense going. Antti Raanta absolutely will start again in game 2 for the Carolina Hurricanes. Tip your hockey helmet to him, folks. He played very well. I didn't expect him to play that well, be honest with you.
No, me neither.
He played a beautiful game and deservedly the number 1 star. All right, that's going to wrap up this Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor, presented by Berkshire Bank and also brought to you by Fazenda Coffee, Tresca Restaurant, TrescaNorthend.com, and by Max Pro Hockey. Razor and I will be back with you after Wednesday's game. Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. Remember, folks, after every playoff game, we're bringing you another episode. Have a nice day. Sun's going to come out tomorrow and have perhaps maybe an extra coffee to help you get by.